Welcome to History Untold. My name is Bill McMarlin, and the story I'm going to tell tonight is Lydia Darragh, Heroine or Myth. Right after the Revolutionary War, General Cornwallis is quoted as saying that George Washington did not outfight us, he outspied us. And to paraphrase a quote from George Washington, he said, "There are many people who are responsible for the creation of this country whose names history will never know." And considering these two prominent men had the same philosophy of the war, you had to know that a lot of spying must have gone on considering the nature of the country. Lydia Darragh is my first story, and it's controversial because there's no concrete proof that it happened outside of the fact that her daughter passed this story down the line. Lydia Darragh was born Lydia Barrington in 1729 in Dublin, Ireland. She married William Darragh in 1753, and shortly after that they moved to America. They were Quakers. They moved to near Philadelphia, and Quakers were pacifists. And most of the Quakers were loyalists to the crown, but the Darraghs, they secretly wanted to be free of British rule. In 1777, after several victories over George Washington's army, General Howe marched into Philadelphia and set up headquarters directly across the street from Lydia's house. She was able to watch their comings and goings and report some things on this, but there wasn't a whole lot going on. Until the day Major John Andre, the British spy master, knocked on her door and told her she would had to move out. Lydia requested that she be allowed to stay since she had children to take care of, and she had already sent two of her youngest to a family member and really had no place else to go. They allowed her to stay under the condition that she provide a room for the British officers to meet. On December 2nd, they used that meeting room in her house, and she and her children were told to go to the rooms early that night. Lydia decided not to go to bed, but to find out what this meeting was about. And since her closet shared a wall with the meeting room, she snuck into her closet and listened to the meeting. She found out that they were planning a surprise attack on a nearby regiment that they found out was moving camp, and they were hoping to catch them out in the open. When the meeting broke up, Lydia headed back to her bed, and when John Andre knocked on her door, informing her that they were leaving, she allowed him to knock several times, giving the impression that she was sleeping. She escorted the soldiers out, and she knew at that point she had a decision to make. As a Quaker and a pacifist, she should do nothing with the information. But as a mother, since she had a son in the regiment in question, and as a secret patriot, she knew she had to do something. So she came up with a plan. The next day, she went across the street to British headquarters and requested a pass to go down to the mill to obtain flour. This was not unusual. Many people had received pass for the same sort of situation. So she trudged the several miles in the snow, going down towards the mill, and I have to assume she probably was trying to hurry because she knew she was going to do more than go to the mill and didn't want to rouse suspicion by being gone too long. Once she got to the mill, she had got the flour, and then she headed down the road to what was the Sunrise Tavern, which was known as a Patriot Message Center. This way, she came across a militia soldier who knew her son. She gave him the information. He promised to give it to General Washington. Now, this is where another part of the story comes into play. There was a journalist, Elias Dubineau, that he was, in his journals, he tells the story of a woman who came to him and gave him a needle book that had many pockets in it, and in one of those pockets were the plans of the British Army. He confirmed them and took them to command. This could have been Lydia. He doesn't name her, but we do know that her information did get to General Washington. She returned to her home and went about as if nothing was going on. The next day, when the British marched into the field to surprise the Patriots, they were surprised themselves. They took a lot of casualties and were pushed back into Philadelphia. When Major John Andre knocked on Lydia's door again, it was to ask her a question. Was anyone awake on the night of December 2nd? She looked at him and said, no, we all went to sleep early that night. He's quoted as saying that the Americans knew of our coming and were prepared for it, and that we marched back in as a parcel of fools. The walls must have ears. To understand the bravery and the courage it took for her to do that, this isn't like your neighbor knocking on the door and asking if you're awake, or even the police department. This was the British government, and she knew that if she was found out to be a traitor, she would hang. Most of us will never, ever have to make a decision like that. And part of the reason is that people like Lydia Darragh chose to make that decision back in 1777. So the next time someone tells you women had nothing to do with the creation of this country, tell them the story of Lydia Darragh. You might change their mind. Good night.